And then can I have Declan? Declan, you're dealing with some complex emotions right now. You're also dealing with them violently. Do you have any like scene setting stuff to do, or do you want to go over your motivations?
Oh, whichever way you're comfortable taking that, I'm fine to do either.
I would say you should do a little both. Sounds fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll start with the former. Um, I believe we last left with Red trying to stop Declan from um, beating the shit out of his
Murdering the
kid.
guy.
Yeah, and slashing at me. He's since then been kind of pounding this dude's face into ground meat and holding him into the healing spirit to keep him from dying. He doesn't really know who this guy is. He just knows that, he's part of whatever's happened here. And he's the only one left standing, I guess isn't the proper term. But he's the only one left that I can actually wrap my hands around and do anything about, because the rest of them were just ghosts. And, yeah.
Okay.
He was finally stopped. May finally, managed to stop him, and he started to cry, but he's basically just kind of like kneeling on this guy's chest and holding him down with one hand, and the other arm has kind of fallen to his side. So that's sort of where we left him off.
I could use your help with something. So, we talked a little bit about Shelbin and who she is, and maybe if she was misrepresented. And I think a lot of that can really be explained by the fact that she's now in possession of an artifact that kind of warps one's personality a little bit. But only to a certain degree. Do you think that Shelbin had any history with magic? I mean, I know elves often do, but she's a wood elf, and they're less prone to magic.
I mean, I think it would be reasonable for her to have grown up around some magic users. Again, she didn't grow up around any members of her immediate family, but she's been raised mostly by her uncles and the other people who live where they all come from.
Mm.
And it stands to reason that quite a few of them would be magic users, so I don't think magic would be a foreign concept to her, but it's not commonplace, right? Most, like you said, most wood elves wouldn't be magically inclined.
Right. Yeah. If anything, they find themselves being clerics or druids or something like that. But, arcane magic is not the first go-to.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely happens, but yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to keep switching around here. So I have, let's go with Clea. Maeve, I don't know how Maeve is feeling. She's got a evil sword and like a dead grandma that we didn't get to develop too much, but I really liked that part of the story. What's next for Maeve? Or what's currently going on?
She's very confused. Things have gotten decidedly fucking weird to her. There's portals opening left and right. Mimi's evil. Laura's family is a bunch of dicks. Declan's daughter has an evil book, though really, to Maeve, all books look pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you haven't really spent the time.
But this one seemed very evil.
This one in particular, it did have that. It did radiate evil. Beautiful assistant went with.
Yeah, beautiful assistant fucking dipped and alone, and now Laura's back, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Emiya, if you don't mind answering this, do you think that with the speed of the fight, do you think maybe you were able to see Vino exiting the room through the other, like the main teleportation circle?
Laura would have?
No, I'm asking your opinion. Do you think that would be good to happen?
I I'm confused.
It's okay. So you know how like fights tend to last like a minute or less. Do you think like with the timeline of when your gate appeared, maybe it was starting to open and Laura would have seen Vino making his exit out the teleportation circle? Because what happened to me is I just remembered that he had left to go find
I think
Sheldon.
Laura's portal probably only opened after the fight, the main fight, not the Red versus Deglin fight, ended, and probably even after Mimi
Mm-hmm.
said the thing over the intercom that exists.
Okay. Good. And then I guess I'm gonna go to Herschel. Herschel, I have a question for you. Because if you haven't already, like if your character hasn't already been let on to this, your character's probably gonna have this explained to you pretty soon. It sounds like things are coming to a point where, you know, everybody is is now directly pointing their finger at an NPC known as Mimi, who it seems to be responsible for the kidnapping and well, she seems to be the big bad, or at least in that sphere of influence. And you know that the people that everyone's been up against up until you got here were the Red Wizards of Thay, who are allied with the Zentarum. Do you have any thoughts on the Red Wizards? Because they're essentially rebels that left their kingdom to be able to practice magic freely and the way they want to. And that seems to be
Where did Red Wizards come from? Where it went from Mimi all of a sudden to Red Wizards. What?
Okay, so the Red Wizards have been the big bad, and you were told they were the ones that had constructed this dungeon.
Okay.
So if Mimi is involved in that, she has some sort of allegiance to them. And I just, as particularly with the fact that they were somewhat involved in your imprisonment and you've been seeking to kind of take their knowledge, I don't know if you have any like building you want to do for their lore, anything like that.
Can't say so. They haven't really affected me aside from the imprisonment, which is
Okay.
I suppose that's what you'd expect when you break into a place looking for knowledge.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's nothing really that they've done to me aside from that.
Okay.
Which you would expect the same from anybody.
Yeah, and I think part of that's going to come down to your character having more like in-game experience with them. So I'm just sorry about the long intro. I'm just gathering my thoughts for all that. All right, and then finally, Ed, do you have anything that your character's feeling? There's a very powerful infernal, like, well, it has roots in the infernal like artifact. It just kind of went walking off, and you just had that pointed out to you. There's a bunch of other, you know, things that are kind of occurring at the same time. What do you feel right now?
Well, I kind of feel like I'm doing bard things, gaining power. I don't know.
Okay. So you and Herschel seem to be on the same, kind of the same level there, as far as like, you both want to be the very best, like no one ever was, sort of thing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep that as your motivation here. All right. So I'm gonna get us kicked off then. So, you know, a green and white swirling portal opens. Laura steps out. Kind of everything is like the bodies in here, those that are living, which I guess there's only one, and he's still alive. They're still hot. The ghostly figures kind of slowly disintegrate into the floor, leaving behind very little trace. But other than that, all of you are looking at each other. I know Deglin did like the rampage shout into the air, like that lady, that so and so growl. You can take it from here.
So
Oh, no,
what's Laura say when she jumps through? Let's I guess establish that first.
She probably says something along the lines of, like, no time to explain, we gotta get through this portal.
Alright. Declan will take out his knife and spin it around backwards and just try to slam it into the side of this dude's head to just knock him unconscious but stable, sort of thing.
Okay.
And if that works, I'm going to try to pick him up or tell 9 to pick him up and go through the portal.
Okay. So all of you pick up your things, the money, the items strewn in this room. You're carrying enormous sacks of gold and treasure from this place. As you're running through the portal, there are a couple of large red muscular figures that enter the room, and they, are shouting at you as you leave. Behind them are a number of armored knights. Some of them look familiar to many, like someone that maybe had, her brother had brought around at some point, but it's hard to say. And the portal closes. And as you're traveling through, from wherever this is, could be anywhere on the planet. It's hard to say. You start to see kind of some of the things that are happening in other parts of the world right now. We cut to a large, dark room, which is... And we can see, there is a hole in the ceiling. Those electronic lights, which I didn't see on this map before, and the servers in the background are not there. But what we do see is a figure with red eyes sitting on top of a throne, and his eyes glow brighter for a moment. He stands and stretches out massive wings, and a floating city, the image of a floating city, is projected in the air in front of him. A drow woman who looks very familiar to all of you appears by his side, as well as this large bull-like figure, and they both kind of whisper into his ear from both sides. The large winged man nods, and he takes a massive halberd out from some kind of invisible space and slams it down onto the ground. And the camera zooms and pans around, and you see Alarad standing there facing him, looking confrontational, looking brave, also looking upset as he realizes who is in the room with him. Gargoyles sitting in various alcoves begin to animate and kind of drop down and descend into the room. We cut to another scene, and there are two gnomes entering a large mead hall. Thokan is standing, pointing at a map of Faerun far to the east, and we see that this represents Thay. Everyone around him is nodding stoically. The gnomes interrupt him, and he listens to them for a while as they describe a series of events. Thokan rips away a tapestry from the wall, and we hear shouting, muffled shouting. and you see that there are a number of portraits behind this tapestry. One is Alarad, and it has nearly been torn to shreds with sword strikes. He points to it, and they nod to him. Afterwards, a collection of dwarves step through the doorway behind the gnomes, and yet again, the conversation is interrupted. They lay a symbol of a hammer striking a forge down onto the table, and they slide it across the table, and it just like skids along, and Thokan grabs it off the table and eyes it warily. And then he rips the portrait of Alarad off the wall and throws it across the room, and it shatters into pieces. And we cut back, and all of you are now standing on a floating city that I believe was the only map I didn't prep. Let me see what I've got here.
So I might have gotten a little bit lost there. All of this is happening in the same area, like Dude on the Throne and Thokan and this, or that it's some kind of an image in an image?
Yeah, this is like what I imagine happening, and maybe this is a better way to put it, is that all of you are floating through this kind of Stargate-like space. You know, this green and white and silvery light, and you're seeing these images. It might be like a good way to put it would be like like my magical mirror of exposition might be blowing up, and like the magic of this portal is activating it. I want to give the characters enough to, like, I have to keep tying in plot threads without bogging us down in them. And if that seems too like exploitative of my DM powers, then I'd like to know, and we can let you drive a little more. But I just want to make sure that you see that there are some things in motion in the background. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, totally. I
Okay.
didn't understand the framing device at first, but I'm obviously okay with it. I wanted to make sure I had my head wrapped around what we were experiencing.
Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna just zoom out a little bit for myself so I can see. So you all are now floating above the Silver Marches. And what I'm gonna say is that you're probably, if I can switch us around again, I just found this cute little 8-bit one that I wanted to show you all. All of you are floating over probably like between Sundabar and the Anarok Desert. So all of you are probably in the northeast side of the Silver Marches, where I have that marker near where the ice mountains are. So in the northeast edge. You can't see it?
East of Citadel Adbar?
Yeah, so there should be a marker that is visible. If not, then whoopsie daisy. Yeah, you see it now? Here, I'll there you go. All right. So you're floating now to the reason I'd used another map previously is to the east of here is the Anarok Desert, which you know is kind of Monsterville. So you are in a very different location than before. You can see that there is a spot though over the desert from where you're standing. You're standing. Let me back up a little bit. So you're standing on the edge of this floating island, and there's like a silvery, magical, almost alien liquid that is flowing in rivers across this. You see wisps of shadows that are evaporating off of the tips of giant spires that I had described before, or tried to using Cardassian imagery that didn't really work out. And so this vapor is rolling off of the tips of the towers. It is nighttime outside, and you see a glow coming from the east, which you know to be the desert. And there is a rumble as you see this energy kind of pour off of it. But for now, when you stop to take note of that, you hear someone clearing his throat behind you and this magnificent garden you're standing in. He is a man wearing very simple leather armor, and he has a bow across his back, as well as a couple of very fine short swords at his hip. His hair is white and long, and it's braided down his back. There is an owl sitting on his shoulder, and he is kind of patiently waiting, watching you all as you take in the scenes around you.
So this isn't space galaxy garden. This is real garden we're now standing in.
Yeah.
Physical, actual ground.
This is physical, actual ground. You're on, you're, as far as you can tell, you're on the floating island you've been seeing over the Silver Marches for many weeks now, pretty much since you've been here.
Well, I guess for starters, I'll start tying up. I'll grab this kid that I had 9 throw through the portal, and I'll just start tying him up and doing my normal thing while grunting angrily, not understanding where I am. And I would imagine I'm still in a pretty emotional state, so it doesn't make sense for my character to suddenly be like, "Oh, hey, who are you? Where are we?" So I'll leave that up to other people.
Okay. Yeah, the kid is still unconscious. Laura, you're there. Also, Red is there.
Super weird.
I know. You're gonna have to figure it out, though. You did this to yourself. There's a calm here, and he says, "Well, I suppose I'd better introduce myself. And I guess his voice doesn't sound like that. He says, he sounds a little bit more confident, cocky, not arrogant, just someone that knows his place in the world and who he is. And, he doesn't have that kind of like air of like a mysterious man about him, even though he may look that way. He says, I'm Arkan Nakore. I've been taking care of Laura for the last little bit here. It only feels like a few days, but time has worked differently here. I sent her to come find you since I knew that you were about to be in some trouble down where you were. I'm sure you have a lot of questions for me about who I am. I'd rather answer them at your pace than try to explain everything at once. So feel free to ask me anything.
Yeah, do you have a bag? Just like a sack.
Sure. Yeah, he focuses for a moment and reaches into thin air and pulls one out of thin air. Here you go. It's a very fine bag made of silk, probably made by a creature that doesn't exist.
Just a headscarf for the mushroom, basically.
Wait, what? Is that, I think there's another word for that.
So, at this point, it's definitely Red's opportunity to slash at Mr. Kidnapping McKidnappington, Mr. War Crimes, with her claws. So she's probably gonna get into a fight with Dylan. I
Okay.
don't want to like make a proper battle out of it, but also probably Red is not gonna make, because she's pretty much dead already.
Okay, so I guess let's just try to describe this. So Red hasn't given up on the fact that she feels that Deglin is, as you said, Mr. War Crimes. So can you, or I guess Deglin, you're being attacked by these magical claws that are dripping with acid, and I mean, how would you handle this?
As deftly as possible. I would try to avoid them to the best of my abilities, and, using a lot of disengage with my bonus action to continue doing what I'm doing as I, basically, the idea is just to hoodwink this kid, if that's a less offensive term. Hopefully I didn't hurt anybody's feelings, but hoodwink this kid and drag him up against a wall while he's unconscious. Mm-hmm. His arms should be tied behind his back, and I'm just going to kind of prop him there just so that I don't lose sight of him, basically. I don't want him to wake up and run off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you'd be able to cover a good amount of ground even if you're pulling someone, but you're using your action or your bonus to disengage, so you'd probably get maybe hit once. I don't know.
There's also, to clarify what is going to be used, there's a spiritual weapon and claws, and probably one use of guiding bolt.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that Deglin can get out of the way of a guiding bolt pretty easily. But let's say that might be the thing that hits. Can you, Deglin, can you make a dexterity saving throw? I just want to see if you're actually getting winged here. Okay. And then I'll just have, just so we know, let's put the dice to it. Can you make 2 claw attack rolls and 1 spiritual weapon attack roll?
Yeah. Where the heck is it? Primal Savagery.
Okay.
Oh, I have Laura selected. And this is a 3rd level spiritual weapon roll.
Okay. So definitely the spiritual weapon can reach no matter what, because it's going to be following Deglin at a speed of 60 feet, I believe. It's going to appear next to him. Yeah. So it's
20.
Okay.
20.
It's following around. Deglin gets probably winged at least once,
Sure.
And so I think it is disrupting your concentration, and Red, I think that the man wanders up to you and he lays his hand on your shoulder without even
Oh no.
without it even appearing, and you just Red's kind of freezes in place, and turns to I'm trying to think of what would work here, to wood. Okay. And
Well then.
and he says, "Oh, she'll be fine."
Did Red die?
No,
It makes it easy to figure out which one to play.
she'll be fine. I just need her to we can't have any violence here. This is a discussion. I see you have a prisoner. What's the deal with that, guys?
Listen, I appreciate the save, but I don't know anything about you, and no offense, it's none of your goddamn business.
He says, you've definitely seen me before. He changes appearance a little bit. His hair grows shorter and his clothes change. and he looks like a man you've definitely seen in all of the stupid visions that I put you through. Traveling with the old group from Barovia. And he says, I was a lot different then. His eyes are now yellow, whereas before they were kind of a silver.
So, okay. Your friends who tricked us, sent us into hell more than once, and kidnapped my daughter. Got it.
I
You're with them.
Yeah, I understand that you don't care, but I'm here to help. I want to put an end to all this and what the trouble that we've caused, and I'm here to help you take on whatever fight you have ahead of you. Although I think that we can try to come to a peaceful solution.
It's not that I don't care, it's that every time I've trusted one of you at any point along the way, it always blows up in my face. Whether it was Alrad or that Thokan or Mimi or all of them, each and every one of you is right and truly fucked.
I think you're absolutely right on that regard. But the only thing I can say for myself is that I definitely started out as the one with problems and had plenty of time to try to find a solution. Whereas a lot of my friends have fallen to darkness or sorrow, and they need help getting out of it, and you might just want to kill them, and that's fine. I understand. I'm on your side. I understand that sometimes you have to take a life in order to end suffering of other people, but I just want to tell you where you can get what you need to find your daughter. And he looks at the rest of you and he says, I now want to find what is going to help all of you become the heroes that right now everybody needs. I am a master of weaponry and the forge, and I've already pushed back some of your enemies myself, although I must remain here to keep them away. This place used to be part of the Shadowfell. He looks over to Maeve significantly. This was Manchun's, I guess you'd say, home. He is now lost in a void, and your powers are affected, but they should still remain intact. I made sure of that.
Maeve is just sort of half sitting while floating, since she can now cast Levitate on herself at will, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Did I need to do, Deglin, I was reading through chat here. Did you need me to pause for you to do anything?
No, we're 100% good. There was
Okay.
just some... I was trying to visualize the scene, which is why I was asking about what everybody else was doing during the time. So I don't think it needed to be stopped necessarily. I was just saying... I was asking for my own immersion, basically.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what everybody else was doing while Red was attacking Declan.
I think that Arkin looks over at Ed and he says, like, you are a very interesting person. You remind me of myself for some strange reason. I don't know why.
Don't know, Captain.
Well, I hope you know that the master that you serve does help keep a balance in the universe. And whether you believe it or not, he's actually a lot less bad than a lot of other evil things in power. He kind of keeps order amongst evil, but his power is being threatened And while he's admitted that to a certain degree, I don't think he understands everything that's tugging him in different directions. So I'll try to break this down for you, but here's what I see. So you've discovered, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be there to help you with this discovery, but you've discovered that Mimi is in fact a being known as Labyrinth. You understand this, yes?
Hey, is this something that Arkan has already told Laura? Or
I
is this
think-
news to her?
I think... What do you think? What would be best for you?
So, probably since she's just really easily like, yeah, this is a thing. I imagine Laura has already learned of this.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how he says, like, I've known for quite some time, but I don't know how to put this without sounding pretentious, because I don't really believe in that sort of thing, but I've kind of ascended beyond a mortal perception of the world. So sometimes and I know it sounds cruel, but I forget that all of you have a different, like, are able to only take in one moment at a time, like when you exist outside of time. Laura, how would you describe what I am? He looks to Laura.
Some sort of god?
Am I? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I guess I'm a god, but I don't really think that I'm your everyday standard type of god. So I've...
He's a lesser god.
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that. I heard what you thought. He says, so
Anytime.
I've known about Mimi, and again, I didn't know that you... I don't know. She's been in control of the Thayan Empire for quite some time. This all started a long time ago. What do you all know so far? I don't want to repeat what's been said. There's so much exposition in this episode already.
I guess I didn't link that Mimi and Labyrinth were the same person, but like that helped to hear.
Okay.
And I mean, I guess I'm a little fuzzy on the involvement of Acerak as far as like where he stands in that
Sure.
whole thing, like who's the real bad guy, but that might be by design.
So
I don't know.
maybe Deglin says, like, so what's the deal with the Sararak then? Is that even, like, was that just like a red herring? I think,
What's
right?
the deal with Acerak?
He says, well, Sararak, it turned out, was Mimi's patron. None of us knew this until it was, well, I don't even know if anyone still knows besides me, but he had been pulling strings for a long time. He's probably one of the only beings in the universe that could have gotten into Barovia. He met up with her during our adventures and had told her of her place in the world, and he gave her a book that contains all of the evil thoughts of the world, written by the Lords of Hell a long time ago, and basically became the foundation of the school of necromancy. Mimi began to feel a longing to be a part of her patron's design of the world. Sararak's whole purpose is to create challenges for adventurers, to test who is worthy of becoming powerful, which I know, looking at some of you, that is the goal. He puts magic items, spells, things that have unimaginable power in them in places that are very hard to get to, and challenges adventurers to prove themselves. He's a being of evil, but he feels that's his place in the world, is to, I don't know. It seems like since this world has existed, it's almost like a game. Yes, actually, so that's my favorite interpretation of a Sararak, by the way, is that a Sararak is the dungeon master. So, FYI. Yeah, I mean, you could almost call him a dungeon master. And Mimi was able to learn the secrets of constructing dungeons, of taking old places and filling them with her own ideas and designs. And with this knowledge that she gained from the book, she found that the only way that she was going to be able to truly attune to it and use it to serve her master, who by all rights has no involvement in this. She is his representative in this world. She had to kill someone that she loved, and she thought that she had a way around it. We have kind of a cut scene back to that scene that's kind of flashed over and over again of Thokan fighting a Sararak. And you can see this knowing look in Mimi's eyes. In fact, I think in the last game I actually spelled it out for you all. Do you remember what I had, like that scene from the last game?
Was it
Which one?
I'll just repost it in the chat and just skim it really quick. Oh god, it's gonna cut into a million pieces.
Because we're dummies.
That's me. So basically it was Mimi wandering from the camp outside of the Amber Temple, because at one point our group had camped outside of the Amber Temple. She wandered in, went to the library of Exathanatar. Exathanatar stood there, and kind of dumbly looking, a Sararak appears. The Sararak hands her a book. And then we cut back to the Tomb of Annihilation in the middle of Chult. And he is speaking to one of the adventurers. And so all of that kind of enters back into your minds, and he says, so Mimi had thought that she could keep Thokan alive forever. It would be killing two birds with one stone. She knew that she was going to live for centuries, maybe even for eternity, but that Thokan didn't want to live forever, even though she'd offered to find a way. And so maybe because the book that a Sararak had given her had twisted her somehow, she had decided to take that choice away from Thokan and to have a Sararak transform him into a member of the undead. Now, from what I hear, he's returned, having escaped the endless maze wherever a Sararak lives, and he's gone back to trying to fix the world here. But he is too ashamed to find or to confront Mimi. He doesn't want to hurt her, so he's doing things elsewhere. He's in Sundabar right now. As we speak, I believe he's with your brothers. He points to many. Is everyone following so far? This is a ton of exposition, but I'm trying to wrap up a lot of plot here.
I am following.
I
Okay.
think so.
All right. Thokan has many followers, but he is also a tainted undead, and I don't know if he can be trusted. It's something that you could investigate and find out. He's a potential ally. Mimi Labyrinth, whatever you want to call her, is now in control of the Thayan Empire. She's been in control for many years. She entered in as an initiate after leaving the Tomb of Annihilation after her friends had left her. And over time, she overtook Zastam himself and his followers. and she now has a whole different hierarchy there. She brought in the Zentarum, and they've been moving to construct something in the heart of the Thayan Empire. Some sort of massive fortress, maybe even a dungeon. She has made that her sanctum. I don't know how you're going to get into Thay without help if you want to reach her and to reach your daughter, Deglin. So I'm just letting you know that you can't simply, one does not simply walk into Thay, as it were.
Ha 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 ha.
So that is one source of help. The other would be in the High Ice, where Emperor Algid, aka Einar, lives. The problem with Einar right now is he's not inherently bad, but he is one of the most powerful beings currently existing in the world. And he's not using it to do anything. He's building power. But that's going to directly affect me pretty soon, because he's trying to find a way to, and he points over the edge of the island, he's trying to find a way to awaken his own Netherese enclave. That's where he lives. He lives in a city much like this that has crashed into the, a place between the glacial land of the High Ice and the Anorok Desert. Here, I'll switch scenes for you really quick.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he kind of points to it, or like he kind of helps you like see with a vision, because he's a god, he can just do whatever. He says, if I don't, now I can't go there and talk to him myself and try to explain the reason. If I don't stay here, the Netherese are going to break free from the Shadowfell, and I'm pushing them back. They had already descended trying to take back power, so this is kind of a prison for me at the moment. But I think that you could try to figure out whatever's influencing Einar, try to get him to fight with you. If he knew what was going on, and if you could bring him back to be who he should be, he should help you, or at the very least, his lust for war should drive him to assist you. But that is definitely a dangerous path. Besides, it sounds like Alarat is there. I don't exactly know what his deal is right now. He's kind of hard to read.
I'd like to start. I'd like to call a vote to name our first group from the Curse of Strahd campaign customer support, because everybody's sorry, but nobody can help. That was just like, oh man, yeah, that sucks, but sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you guys more information on Arkin and why he's kind of the way he is now, but basically he was, like, if I could just condense it down, he is looking for godhood for centuries. Like, his greed that he obtained from the Amber Temple had kind of driven him to it, and he kept actually getting weaker as he tried to defeat more powerful beings. Like, it kind of pulled away from him, and once he decided to start just being a pacifist, essentially, and just working on, kind of having conversations with people, talking to them, continuing to build and craft and make weapons, and to give them to others to do right, he actually did end up ascending just by eating something. And really, in a way, he sees himself, we'll cut back to what he's saying. Like, I see myself as sort of the opposite of Labyrinth right now. I see myself as someone who gives tools to those that want to fight and want to take on challenges. And so I want to not only give you allies, but I want to tell you how to find what you need in order to protect yourselves. You won't be able to make it into Labyrinth Sanctum without these tools. The armies that you have that might help you are only going to let you get in. What you do once you're there is going to be very dangerous.
It's certainly a lot to process.
Yeah, I know. I really, this game wasn't designed with a ton of time in the background, but it had to happen today because this was my timeline, the Dungeon Master says.
Jim says it's not a complaint. Declan says complain.
Does anyone have any questions to help me tie the plot? Arkin is basically the one that's going to be able to help you answer any unanswered questions in the plot of the story, so we can start moving to a long but enjoyable conclusion.
I kind of think it's going to, unless, you know, I don't, does anybody want to jump in on that right now before I say what I'm going to say, because I don't want to override your question.
Because this is like picking the Dungeon Master's brain.
This is kind of off topic, but where's my beautiful assistant?
Oh.
I was looking forward to seeing him again.
I'm sorry, Laura. He bit me and ran off with your dad. Your dad's evil now.
Oh. And upon realizing that, hey, Maeve is looking really sad, Laura just runs over to Maeve and hugs her. And she says, it's okay, it's okay.
Arkin says, you know, Mimi, or not Mimi, Laura, there's so many freaking characters in this game. He says, Laura, I know I should have told you this a lot sooner, but I think while you're all here, it's the best time to say this. You know, your father was actually at one point, like he left to go to Thay, and he became Mimi's apprentice. I don't know if he still serves her. What? What?
Might have just accidentally said something with push to talk held down or something. Was there an...
I heard a noise, I don't know. Anyway, he says, you know,
No.
What?
Is Rob dead?
Yep, I killed him.
Oh, apparently Claire killed Rob.
Uh-oh.
With the candlestick in the dining room.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear us, Rob?
Hold on, I'm changing the sound. Everything is very silent.
Oh shit, who brought him back to life?
No,
I'm
Declan
gonna
I
go
could
ahead.
hear, but everything went like dim for no reason.
Oh, gotcha. Declan will hand Ed
Okay.
sheet music for Candle in the Wind so that he can play it for our dead friend.
I mean, I switched to sadder piano music. That is if anyone still uses Roll20 audio while I'm in here.
Laura can cast ceremony and we can do the funeral.
Yeah, do it right proper. So yeah, Spencer, can you repause the question just so we can revisit it one more time before I say what I was going to say, just because I don't want to taint anybody's decision based on what I was going to say.
Sure, I mean...
And it's not super groundbreaking, but I feel like if we're following a thread, let's follow it.
So I think what Arkin is getting to is he says, I mean, if Arkin can somehow like kind of piece together, because he's not like all knowing, you know, so if he can piece together that Vino was with you all, he says that book is incredibly intoxicating and needs to be destroyed. And I feel, Laura, that your father is probably under the sway of it. I didn't know that he was involved in this. But I guess I would say that it might end up being able to free your father and maybe more of those that have been put under its sway. Shelvin, maybe even Labyrinth herself, if she's not totally twisted in this madness.
Right.
So I think Declan would do that thing that people do during like a business meeting where he turns to him and asks like, sorry, can we have the room?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the general idea
There's
of
a
what I was
copy
going
of
to say is
a
like,
DVD.
if we have two choices and some, you know, whether it's favors to ask or places to go, I think at least we should talk about it as a group.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you had mentioned like, does anybody need anything from the dungeon master? I think maybe we need to come to this decision together without that.
Right, he nods. He says, yeah, there's one more thing you should know. Like when I mention helping you get tools that you need, I was the one that invented the way to empower magical items that you had, you know, encountered previously. I have a machine here that can replicate the effects of what you found in Strade's Gallows. And we can take some of the objects that you have and empower them. We would need to find more gems in order to power them, but I believe that the dwarves may have access to them. The dwarves of Sundabar, or perhaps Citadel Adbar, or Citadel Felbar, but it would be good to ask around, and that could be a possible lead for you. Now I'll go. And he kind of disappears. Laura knows her way around here, so not a big deal.
Just as a side topic, when he says, does anybody need anything, the effects of the heat metal spell from before are finally made apparent as Declan's armor essentially just like falls the fuck apart. Oh. The buckles and shit.
I wanted to ask, actually, I mean, and what I want to point out of game is, as far as like what we talked about last time about gaining power your own way and finding items that resonate with you, that's one way to do it that I'm sure Arkin can assist with. There are other ways to do that. It's just kind of a shortcut if that's what you all prefer. So, just FYI.
Yeah. No, it sounds like we need to have a discussion in character about what the characters want to do, and maybe just, you know, with flakes of out of character, like, hey, what does everybody want? You know, how's everybody feeling? What would make you happy? What would be fun? Because I don't, you know, sometimes if people don't weigh in, they get ignored. So I just want to make sure everybody's a chance to weigh in.
Oh, one more thing I have before you get into a discussion. Ryan, do you think it's okay that Arkin decided to become like a pacifist? Or no?
I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
it's definitely an interesting.
Yeah, I think like he started out trying to gain followers and try to like build a church, you know? One thing that I remember thinking about with him is like, I think he was looking to actually like join his god, but he found that his god like didn't, like what he found out about the gods, because gods in Faerun exist kind of like they do in a lot of fantasy worlds, where they get power from people that believe in them. And I think that's what Arkin realizes. He's like, wow, that's kind of unfair that people just believe in gods in exchange for power. So he decided to just like help people, and this sounds really cheesy, but to help people believe in themselves, and to gain strength from that. That's kind of his MO right now. Anyway. But he's a god. That's fun. I don't know. I want you to feel like that was a good ending for you. I don't know. Keep going. Do your thing, guys.
His character, his call, but I don't know. I thought it was at least a very interesting interaction there. Gonna throw an idea out there. You'll let me know how you feel about it. Maybe we take our 10 now, and everybody kind of takes some time to think about our two options, whether it's going to Thokan or going to Einar, as well as what they might ask Arkin for. And like that idea of like, hey, if you could have one thing that would help you complete your task, what would you want? And like, maybe have an in-character discussion about it when we get back, of all of us kind of thank you, Laura. All of us kind of having a conversation about it when we get back, so that we can figure out how we want to go from there. And Spencer, this, no bully, but like, I like the idea here that like we kind of hash things out, and please stay and weigh in where you feel necessary. But I think giving everybody the opportunity to kind of say what they want to do is going to be a good way to kind of wrap things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of you can moderate that meeting between you all as you kind of wander through the gardens. So I'm assuming that's Deglin who's moderating.
I think it should be an equally weighed group opportunity for everybody to weigh in that wants to weigh in. But sure, if anybody needs any, push or moderation or exposition, I'd be happy to provide. But is anybody opposed to taking our 10 now as opposed to a half hour from now?
I don't mind. Either way.
I'm okay with that.
Cool. All right. I guess we'll meet back here in 10 minutes.
Spencer, before
Yes.
you disappear, what's the situation with Red? Is she like turned to
Oh shit!
squid
Yeah,
for the
I
next
actually
hour?
wanted to say, like, before he leaves, if he could unfreeze Red, that'd be great.
Oh, sure, yeah. He just like a hand reaches out of nowhere and taps her on the shoulder, and she's back to normal, but she's kind of under the effects of a calm emotion spell.
Can you
Oh,
unfreeze
so-
Red? Who?
So Red gets Witchfire Draft, but I don't.